All right, welcome back to the show. As you know by now, the Republican presidential candidate, Mitt Romney, made a big announcement this week. Paul Ryan is going to be his VP candidate, conservative from Wisconsin, young guy, energetic. We'll start with our Republican. What's your thoughts on Mr. Ryan?
I thought it was a good pick in the sense that with the Republican base, that it shores up Mitt Romney's conservative credentials, which were in question considering he was the governor of Mass and for state-sponsored health care there. So where Paul Ryan is very much a conservative, much more so than Mitt Romney. So, however, I do think that Marco Rubio probably would have been a better choice,
from Florida,
who was the senator from Florida. He's young like Congressman Ryan, but he also is Latino, had served as the Speaker of the House of Florida. I think he's a little bit more dynamic and energetic, and I thought he would have made a better pick. But
broaden the base, you're saying,
yeah,
with Rubio?
Yes.
And you have Florida at play.
And also put Florida in play, which is a lot more electoral college votes than Wisconsin.
What are you now, as someone on the other side of the aisle, so to speak, where is this guy vulnerable, Mr. Ryan, if you're the...
You know, I think the Obama folks actually like this pick. And I think they like this pick because it will allow them to really focus, I think, on some of the things that they think Romney is vulnerable on. And so, for example, you know, with that budget that Ryan, you know, put out, it gives them an opportunity to talk about issues like Medicare, for example, and to argue that Ryan wants to cut Medicare and argue about how he wants to sort of gut the social safety net. And so I think it gives them, you know, issues that really clearly define the differences between the two candidates. Student loans, exactly. And so I think it really allows them to draw the line in the sand much more clearly than perhaps a Rubio candidacy would have done. And so I think in a way, you know, liberals and the Obama folks actually like this pick because it gives them an opportunity to really focus on the record and to focus on the issues and to really be able to sort of label Romney as someone who basically agrees with this very radical sort of conservative
So they isolate him in that conservative art, that sort of harsh conservative.
Exactly.
I also think it's very interesting that depending on what this election was about, that Congressman Ryan even got chosen. So, for example, if we were thinking about the war on terrorism, Afghanistan, there's no way a congressman without any military experience would have been added to this ticket. But because it's about the economy and jobs, then Ryan became front and center because of his budget. But it's very unusual that a 42-year-old congressman without any military service from Wisconsin would be a vice presidential pick.
But I was reading somewhere that this is the first time that none of the candidates have had a military background ever. That none, Obama, Biden, that none of them had that. So that's sort of unusual.
I mean, we've reached that point. I mean, that, you know, the World War II generation has had its time in terms of political leadership. 20 years from now, we'll be talking about the Iraq war veterans who are running for office. And so I think it's that we're in between, you know, those major sort of war experiences. And so that's what this political class looks like. I think this is going to be an interesting race. In the fall, I think we're going to have some really interesting debates. You know, I'm looking forward to seeing a Biden and a Ryan sort of debate. You never know what either one of them are going to say, so it could be real entertaining.
We have something from Ryan right now, so we'll see what he'll say. We'll have started off right now. He'll give a precursor to what he'll talk about in debates. Paul Ryan.
When you take a look back 4 years ago, we had a really tough economy. And without a doubt, President Obama inherited a difficult situation. Here's the problem. He made it worse.
All right. So let's match him up with Joe Biden, all right? And first of all, how much weight does the VP candidate really have? Once you assess whether it's from Florida or Wisconsin, end of the day, what kind of sway does the VP candidate really have?
I think a VP candidate can bring you down. I think Sarah Palin was a negative to John McCain, not a positive, because it brought in the judgment, it questioned the judgment of John McCain to pick Sarah Palin, who many of whom thought was not ready for the position. So, but I don't think a vice presidential candidate may help you in a particular state, but nationally I don't think it's a huge difference. People vote for the top of the ticket.
Sure.
And I think you're absolutely right. I think, what's key about the pick is you don't want someone who will bring down your candidacy. Certainly anyone who can help with your base in terms of exciting them, and I think that's what people are talking about, is that this pick has helped excite a base that has been very leery about the lead candidate. And so this is a very important pick in that particular sense, and I think particularly for the intellectual class of the Republican Party, I think it's been important to quiet them down in terms of the folks who write the op-eds, who run the think tanks, and so you want them on your side if you're a Mitt Romney, which hasn't been the case always, that they've been enthusiastic about it. So I think Ryan helps him, with that, core of people. But vice presidents don't necessarily help you win the election, but they can be a plus.
We got about a minute left. Just get some quick thoughts on Joe Biden. You match him up with Ryan. Biden's older. He's a surprisingly good speaker. So I'm speaking person in New Orleans. He's a pretty powerful speaker of his own. Has a very powerful story, his whole personal life. How do you match up Joe Biden? And,
we focus a lot on the gaps, but this is a very smart guy. This is a guy who's been around the Beltway for a lot of years, who's debated a lot of issues on the floor of the Senate, and handled himself very well the last, through the last presidential cycle. So I think, this is a guy who will, come prepared to, debate very effectively. Like I think Ryan will come prepared to debate very effectively from his side as well.
30 seconds. If you're Barack Obama, what are you worried about from the Republican side? And we'll have a Republican answer that. What do you think he should be worried about, the president, right now?
He should be worried about what every incumbent president who has gone down in a bad economy, that the economy is put on his shoulders, and voters see him as being responsible for a dragging economy, and the Republicans using the right language to make that point.
Yeah, are you better 4 years ago, right? Most folks say they're not.
Right.
If you're Mitt Romney, what keeps you up at night if you're thinking about how to take out the incumbent?
Wow, there's so many things. Certainly Romney has to get out there and make the case that he, has a message that will, resonate with people, that he has the plan, the strategy for fixing the economy and moving the country forward. And I think that's his burden.
The economy, jobs. All right. When we come back, folks, thanks for our guests here, Corey Brinson. Bilal Saku will come back with a communications coaching and training specialist. I call her a high-performance coach. She'll get you on gear and how to get those successful speeches and programs going. We'll talk about how the Olympics were a great training ground for establishing and teaching mental toughness. Are you mentally tough? Find out next when we come back.